along to Donington Park. Well, welcome back if you were watching the footage earlier on. We've got our final race of the weekend coming up for you in the 2026 GT Cup Championship from here at Donington Park on the Grand Prix circuit. It's the sprint race that will be coming up for you. The cars are just edging their way out onto the pit lane apron at the moment, on their air jacks, waiting for the tyres to come out, preheated from the ovens that are out the back, and we're looking forward to this final 25-minute race of the weekend. It's provided some brilliant action in what have been perfect conditions. Marcus Clutton is alongside me, so while Marcus is here, I'm going to grab a word with Marcus. You've been sharing the Audi with Peter Ursig. Talk us through that race yesterday. 2 corners to go, you finally took the lead and took the win. Yeah,
it was a great result for us, wasn't it? And to be honest, it was a gap I didn't think was manageable. When I was told the gap on the radio, I thought, you know, we're not going to. Mark's a quick peddler. We're not going to catch that lad. But yeah, I could see him with 2 or 3 laps to go. And there's a small chance here. I didn't anticipate on actually making it with 2 corners to go. And there was only one thing I was going to do. I was going to have a go, so I did, and it paid off. So yeah, it was a great result for us as a team.
Were you being told by the team what you needed to do in terms of a rate of close? Because from the commentary box, I was doing the math and trying to work out what you needed to get there.
Yeah, I think initially after the pit stops, it was a 32-second gap, and it was about 22 minutes, I think. So I'm driving around trying to calculate how many laps I can do and at what deficit. And then I was just informed every lap, right, you took X amount of time out of him, you took this much time out of him, he's had a bad run with traffic, or I had a bad run of traffic, and yeah, and you know, it all just came together, didn't it? I think it made a good finish and a good race yesterday.
It could have maybe been 2 out of 2 in the pit stop races this weekend, but Peter lost time earlier on in the race, which we didn't see on the stream at the time, but I gather he had a spin down at the old hairpin.
Yeah, and unfortunately, just a small mistake on the entry to old hairpin caused him to have a bit of a spin, and you know, luckily we was able to drive away and no problems getting stuck in gravel, etc. And yeah, it could have been 2 from 2 maybe. Obviously I get less time in the car in the second race, but Mark Smith did have 5 seconds extra penalty, so usually I choose not to do the second endurance race, but I said, come on, let's have one last crack at this. And anyhow, it didn't pay off. It was possible. I think we did the maths, and with that, what we lost in the spin minus that off the finishing time, yeah, we could have done it today as well, but it didn't work out.
What can you do? What do you think Peter can do in this one?
Just damage limitation, I think. Just you know, we've got a pretty old set of tyres going on the car now. We're starting P5. We didn't really post the best lap time in the first half of the race there. If we can beat the BMW in GT3, I don't care if we're 15th, as long as we beat the BMW. Championship mindset for this one.
Yeah, try and outscore them. Thanks, Marcus. Thanks for chatting to us. We're going to have a walk further up the pit lane, see who else we can chat with. So Shane, our cameraman, will follow me round. We can see the Audi is there. We can see that Frank Morris is already out at the wheel of the Lamborghini. Here's the KTM in the hands of Tom Walpole. Now this car has a clamshell front, so it's very different. No doors like you have on a normal car, but it's a clamshell front that means clamshell open. There's Tom inside. You can see all the bare carbon fibre on the inside, and the rather large steering wheel that the KTM has as well. So it's not like a normal much tinier steering wheel that you see, but the reason the steering wheel is larger is because it's giving him all the information on the dash that he needs to get from that. So it's got a screen at the top of it, and that helps him understand what's going on. I can see Alex Toth-Jones is up here, so we're going to go under and have a quick word with Alex as well, who's been sharing the number 88 SVG Motorsport Ginetta with Mark Ellman this weekend. Alex, it's great to see you back in GT Cup, and what's been mixed fortunes really for the 888 car.
Yeah, I think today's been a little bit different from yesterday. Couldn't really ask for much more yesterday. I think between myself and Mark did an incredible job in the pit stop race, coming from gravel turn 1 to P2 in class, and P2 in the sprint race was kind of, there's an element of me finding my feet as well. Different car, first time on the new tyre in qualifying. So yeah, there's been learning from my side, but yeah, the pit stop race didn't go ideal in the last one. I'll give all the credit in the world to Mark. He was racing hard, but yeah, that curb bit him a little bit too hard, and we ended up with the gravel.
Yeah, I think I said on commentary at the time, I thought he'd had some contact, but we got a replay of it, and it was close, but there was no contact between the cars.
No, unfortunately, that little sausage on the inside of the curb just picked the car up a little bit, and even if there would have been that tiny amount of contact, I think we were heading stage left at that point anyway.
You're a man who's got plenty of Ginetta experience. There can't be many races you've done that haven't been in a Ginetta.
Yeah, a little bit. Obviously, GT5 back in 2016 to 18 now. That's a long time ago. But then most of the GT4 stuff has been Aston Martin related. Again, GT Cup back in 2020, I was in an Aston Martin and British ET before that. Occasionally now jump back in a Ginetta like this weekend. It's been a great opportunity, but most of my time is spent coaching with the SVG guys in their other championships, which obviously clashing with Croft this weekend, so I can't be there this time. I think we've got a car just about to come out, so we're just trying to get run over.
We'll get our cameraman out of the way, Shane, because there we go.
But yeah, so it's a nice kind of rewinding time to be back in.
You must enjoy the coaching, but do you miss it when you're not behind the wheel?
I can't lie, yeah. I mean, this opportunity has been brilliant. As much as all us coaches make a living out of the coaching, we do need to be back in the seat now and again. So the idea is to be back in the seat more often, have a nice balance of both, ideally.
I'm not asking you to give us anything that you've got in the pipeline, but is there something planned for the near future for a full return, a full campaign?
I think at the minute with this, the GT Cup stuff has been a really good step back in. We've got some really good partners and sponsors in the hospitality down at Turn 1, so I'll give them a wave. And yeah, we'll see. There's ideas, there's conversations, but as with everyone, it is far too early now to be talking about next year because nothing gets decided. And as most racing drivers say, it gets to about February and that squeaky bum time happens where you go, right, what are we actually doing? So we'll see.
Well, thanks for chatting to us. Thank you very much. So there is Alex Toft-Jones, who's been sharing the number 888 SVG Motorsport at Ginetta with Mark Ellman. Mark's just made his way out onto the circuit. The cars are heading to the grid, so let's have a look at the layout of the Donington Park Grand Prix circuit. So let's have a look at the Donington Park Grand Prix circuit. The cars will head off the start-finish line and up towards the first corner, the right-hander at Redgate corner. Then it's Hollywood and that plunge down through the twists and the turns of the Craner curves. To the lowest point, the old hairpin, where the cars then start to climb up through Starkey's Bridge, Schwantz Curve and the right-hander at McLean's. Tricky corner, Coppice corner, blind entry, double apex right-hander that feeds you onto the straight and in towards the left and the right flicks at the Fogarty S's. From there, it's the heavy downhill braking area into the Melbourne hairpin. You come back up the hill and into the off-camber exit of Goddard's and over the start-finish line. That is a lap of the Donington Park Grand Prix circuit that, of course, played host to the 1993 European Grand Prix. It's 2.49 miles long in total. About half a mile of that is just the Melbourne hairpin. And it's also quite undulating. The elevation change across the lap is 35.8 metres. It's a real challenge, this circuit, with so many different types of corners and a couple of key corners that it's so important to get off the corner to carry the momentum onto the straight. 12 turns in total. That's the challenge of the Donington Park Grand Prix circuit. So there we go, that's the final time that we'll see the Donington Park circuit in terms of the layout and the elevation change that we've got. It's not the final time though that we'll see the cars flying around there because they're only just on their outlap from the pit lane, ready to line up on the grid. Now this grid, of course, is based on the fastest lap times that were set in the first part of the pit stop race that we saw earlier on. So it's not anything to do with qualifying, it's all about the first part of the pit stop race before the pros can get involved. Get your lap time in early in the race because that will ultimately give you the grid, and it is that car there, Paul Fullick, that will start from pole position. The Team Brit car, which has gone well so far this weekend. It claimed to win in the first race of the weekend, which was the sprint race that took place yesterday. It was fifth in the pit stop race overall yesterday, and it was second in the pit stop race earlier on today. It still remains warm out there. It was 22 degrees I think for their first race. Well, it's actually got hotter now than it was then. The wind has picked up a little bit. There's only about 1 km/h extra wind than there was earlier on, but there is zero chance of rain, and it has been, you know, comfortable today. It was very uncomfortable in terms of the heat yesterday. Mark Smith, he claimed that win earlier on today at the wheel of the Paddock Motorsport McLaren. He has had a solid weekend on his return to GT Cup with 2 second places yesterday and 1 win today. What might he be able to do from that car that's there on the outside of the front row of the grid? We can see in the background of the shot Warren Gilbert's Marcos making his way onto the grid. We can see the number 4 Lamborghini, which will be Charlie Digby. That car again went well earlier on today, finished 5th overall and claimed another win in Group GTC, which scores its maximum championship points. So that red and day-glow yellow Lamborghini is the car that leads the overall championship at this stage. And then there's one more car just needs to rush its way into its grid slot, which is going to be the number 69 car of 65 car, I should say, of Harry Ewell. And then we also need to get the Audi through. The Audi has been late to leave the pit lane on every occasion. They bolt the tyres on that car at the last possible moment, having taken them out of the ovens at the back. So it comes onto the grid with probably the warmest of all the tyres, because it's only just been bolted onto the car out of the ovens, and equally as much as on the grid for less time, so the tyres don't cool down to the same degree. So it's sort of clever work by JMH Automotive. There is the number 95 car. That will be Matt Eddles that will be driving that particular car, partnered up with the Irishman Sam Mayer-Loughnane, who first cut his teeth racing things like Toyota MR2 Sam some years ago. And the car that joins us as a new team for this weekend, Constructive Ubik, car number 808. Andrew Dauber will be the driver for this one. They've had a solid weekend. I was chatting to Nathan Wright not long ago. They thoroughly enjoyed their first weekend with GT Cup, albeit they are somewhat disappointed that they can't make the next round, which will be Silverstone. Andrew Dauber is unavailable to race that weekend, so they won't be out, but they are hoping to return and be with us both at Brands Hatch and then the final weekend of racing that's at Snetterton in Norfolk. There's one car that will not make the grid this time through, car number 247, which should have been Ben Taylor. That car, 24/7 Motorsport, have had a rotten weekend. They had an engine go yesterday. There were lots of bits of metal that were in the garage that had all come out of the engine of that car. Changed the engine overnight, and they had an oil pump issue in the race earlier on today, and they have called it a day. So they have had 2 non-starts yesterday, a non-finish earlier on today, and now they are faced with another non-start. So 3 non-starts and a non-finish out of 4 races in a weekend. Just goes to show the trouble that Phil Hearn and the 24/7 team have had. It's not anything to do with their effort. They have put in 100% effort to continually solve the problems and get the car out there, but it's just been one of those weekends, chatting to the team earlier on today. So the countdown is taking place, the final few team members just on the grid, and then once all the cars are fired up, the final few team members will go. So a few of them, I think, with a slave battery just at the side of the car that sits on the outside of the front row of the grid, which is Mark Smith's car. The car is fired up. It's a tool bag just in case there's any few minor final adjustments doing. So the final few officials and marshals clearing the grid in what still remain beautiful conditions here at Donington Park. It's only a 25-minute race, but it's still going to be rather warm in the cars. And we'll see as to who might come out on top. We have had, so far this weekend, 3 different winners out of 3 races, because Team Brit won the first race with Jamie Falvey claiming the win. The second race was won by Peter Ursig and Marcus Clutter. Today, Mark Smith. So 3 wins, 3 different winners out of the 3 races. Can't say the same when it comes to things like GTC and GTH, because some cars have been dominant in those groups this weekend. The number 4 car has won GTH on all 3 occasions. The number 4 car has won GTC on all 3 occasions, and the number 25 Ginetta has won GTH on all 3 occasions. Let's guide you through the grid then. It's the final formation lap of the day, and as we say, this grid is based on the times that were set in the early part of the pit stop race. Car number 68, Team Brit BMW, Paul Fullick starts on pole position. He'll be the driver in this race, and alongside him is Mark Smith. Then it's Tom Walpole and Charlie Digby that will drive the number 4 car in this race on row number 2. As we head to the 3rd row of the grid, Peter Ursig has got Jack Gadd for company, and then it's Frank Morris and Harry Ewell that line up on row number 4. Row number 5 of the grid, on the inside of that 5th row of the grid, is going to be Sam Branston, who should be next up on 9th position on the grid, and alongside him will be the car that should have been Ben Taylor, but that car will be absent from the grid, I'm afraid. Then it's Doc Bush and Warren Gilbert at the wheel of the Marcos. As we head on to row number 7 of the grid, it will be Kyle Wells that will have Matt Eddles for company, so that's a Ginetta and an Aston Martin. And then the next row of the grid will be Neil Wallace will drive the SVG Motorsport BMW, and alongside him is the slightly newer shape BMW in the hands of Andrew Dauber. The penultimate row of the grid will be the car of John Ingram, and then Mark Ellman, because we spoke to Alex Toft-Jones just a few moments ago down there in the pit lane and off the back of the grid, but watch out for it, number 8, Luke Bennett, because I think that car could make progress from 19th position on the grid. So the cars making their way around this final formation lap. Again, as is always the case, lots of weaving from side to side to try and build surface temperature in the tyres, on and off the brakes as well, to try and get that heat to radiate out into the tyre and improve the air temperature and increase the temperatures in the core of the tyre as well. And both of those things combined help you build up as much tyre temperature and brake temperature as you can do to ensure that when the lights go out, that they are ready to go for the final time this weekend. Are we going to get 4 different winners out of the 4 races this weekend, or might somebody walk away with 2 winners' trophies? We will find out in the next 25 minutes, because we are about to get round 10 of the 2026 GT Cup Championship underway here at Donington Park. So out of Goddard's, the final corner, the red lights will be on the gantry, and for the final time this weekend, we're about to go racing in GT Cup. Round 10 about to get underway. Lights on the gantry. Lights head out now, and it's a good start from Paul Fullick, who is already confident that he can move across and take the regular racing line in towards Redgate Corner. But watch out, because Tom Walpole is there, and the KTM is going to pick up the lead of the race. Paul Fullick already down into second, might be down into third, because I think Mark Smith might sneak his way through as they head down through Hollywood. Through Hollywood they'll go. Paul Fullick trying to fight back, but Mark Smith is safely through into second place, and Peter Ursig is now also looking to try and carve his way through into third, and Paul Fullick is already down into 4th position at this stage, and has now got Charlie Digby in the Group GTC leading Lamborghini right behind him. So from the front of the grid, the Beamer is down into 4th place. So it's KTM from McLaren, Audi from BMW, then it is Lamborghini. And that Lamborghini is leading Group GTC, but look behind, Frank Morris is there, and Jack Gadd is there as well, and they are all GTC cars. So the 3 Lambos absolutely together, fighting for the lead of the group in the early stages of this one, but it's a Group GTO, KTM, that leads the way in towards the braking area for the Fogarty S's for the first time. Be careful with those curbs, because that was what caught Mark Ellman out in the race earlier on today, where he had the car unsettled with the curbs, and that pitched him into the gravel trap, and then from there downhill and in towards the braking area for the Melbourne hairpin. Number 4 Lamborghini has won Group GTC on all 3 occasions so far this weekend. It is the car that leads the championship, and Charlie Digby will be desperate to see if he can get himself ahead of the BMW, and then at least that offers him a little bit of defence from Frank Morris, who is currently not that far away. So the lead 3 you can see just scampering away a little bit now. Tom Walpole leading the way. We know that Peter Ursig in 3rd place has got an older set of tyres on, because Marcus Clutton told us that one, so we're not expecting that car to be travelling at exactly the same kinds of speed as it was doing with fresh Pirelli rubber on earlier on this weekend, because you are limited to the amount of tyres that you can utilise over a weekend. Down through the Craner curves, down towards the old hairpin, they will thread their way. Tom Walpole leading the way by a second, and Jack Gadd, I'm afraid, into the pit lane. Now, they had problems earlier on this weekend with a sensor on the car that had gone down, but I'm not entirely sure what's brought him into the pit lane this time through. But that's a big shame for Jack Gadd, who was hoping to finish this weekend on a high, and that's somewhat split up that sort of trio of Lamborghinis that we had, because Frank Morris has fallen away from Charlie Digby, and of course Jack Gadd has now got into the pit lane. So this is the battle for what will be 4th and 5th at the moment. Charlie Digby closing in on the coattails on the BMW on the brakes. But through the corners, the BMW has better aero than the Lamborghini, largely because, of course, the BMW is a GT3 car. The Lamborghini runs to Super Trofeo specification, so it's probably got more power, a trophy, a challenge spec car, but it doesn't have the aero, that's the thing. And arguably it's a slightly more difficult car to drive, the Lamborghini, than the BMW that lies ahead. So through they go. That's 2 laps now completed. Mark Smith set the fastest lap of the race on the first of the flying lap, so he has closed the gap a little bit, down to 0.8 of a second between himself and Tom Walpole. So far, I think the race, other than for Jack Gadd, everything has gone to plan for everybody so far. Just to pick up on Warren Gilbert, how's he getting on in the markers? He's in the 8th position at the moment. He's trying to see whether he can stick with the car that lies ahead of him, which will be Sam Branston's Ginetta, the number 25 car that's there in 7th place. That car will be leading Group GT8 actually at the moment, Sam Branston. But this fight for 4th and 5th place at the moment, Charlie Digby is close, but not close enough. We are now starting to see Mark Smith in the McLaren edging up towards the race leader, Tom Walpole. Had a chat to Tom this weekend. They are still learning ever more about the car. They were moved from Group GTC into Group GTO for this weekend. He thinks the car probably could go a little bit quicker, but at the moment the regulations just meaning that he is stuck with where he is in terms of the performance, but they still think that they can, through the hard work of the team, just get a bit more out of the car, and maybe they've done a few more tweaks in between the pit stop race earlier on, and that's what's paying dividends now, because he leads the way, but not that far behind him is Mark Smith, who looks to have closed up a little bit more. There's less of a car length between them when they get towards the apex of Goddard's. As they come over the start-finish line, what was 0.8 of a second, this time through is now down to 0.2 of a second. So Mark Smith is on his way. Just shows the nose to Tom Walpole, but he was too far away really to attack as they went through Redgate Corner at the start of lap number 4 this time through. We've still got Peter Urseg sitting there in 3rd place. If you remember what Marcus Clutton said when we spoke to him just a few moments ago, he was saying as long as we're ahead of the BMW, they're happy. I think he said, it doesn't matter if we finish 15th as long as we're ahead of the BMW. Well, they are at the moment, because Paul Fullick is in 4th place. So for Peter Urseg, he'll be happy because he is outscoring their main GT3 championship rivals. Whatever the problem was with Jack Gadd, he's back out. He is no longer on the lead lap. He is a lap adrift, but at least he is back out there, and quick work by Top Cats Racing, who look after that car for him. They've resolved the problem and he's out, but it does mean he's running in 17th position currently, and that would put him 4th in Group GTC. So for the lead of the race, looks so Tom Walpole might have responded a little bit around this lap. Mark Smith still close to him when they get towards the apex of the Melbourne hairpin. And Tom Walpole, say, who'd had some good success in his GT4 specification KTM when he's joined us in the past in GT Cup. Well, this GT2 car, which is very much the only one in this country to this specification, is it going to claim a win? And if it does, it would make it 4 different winners out of 4 races so far this weekend. But we've got 18 3/4 minutes for Tom Walpole to try and hang on to this lead of the race. Gap came back out to 4, nearly 0.5 of a second last time through, so there has been a response from him. Mark Smith maybe just taking a slight breather on that lap, having pushed on the lap prior, and will try and close up again once more. Mark Smith did a 1 minute 30.0, which is not that far away from his best, which is 1 minute 29.9. No, 1 minute 29.7, I should say. Tom Walpole, he was a 1 minute 30 as well, so it is close between the pair of them. It's Mark Smith re-attacking this time through. Again, he's going to get a little bit of a toe off the car ahead. You can see that Peter Urseg is not that far away as well. He lapped at a very similar pace on the previous lap, so through the Fogarty S's, looks as though the gap is up to about 3, maybe 4 car lengths in a straight line, but when they get onto the brakes, of course, the gap closes up. And this time through, yeah, Mark Smith still looks to be a similar margin back than he was on the previous lap, so it's going to be hovering around 2, 3, 4, maybe 0.5 of a second, I would have thought, at the end of this lap. But Tom Walpole still needs to just keep pushing as hard as he can and just make sure he doesn't make a mistake. Out of the final corner, over the start-finish line, 5 laps now chalked into the book. What was 0.4 of a second, climbs very slightly, up to nearer 0.5 of a second this time through. Paul Fullick in 4th place, still under pressure from Charlie Digby, who has not been able to find a way through at the wheel of the Group GTC leading Lamborghini at this stage. He's not under any pressure at all now from Frank Morris, who has dropped a long way adrift. The relative gap between the two Lamborghinis now is up to over 9 seconds between the pair of them, 9.265 to be absolutely precise. So a good fight for the lead of the race, a good fight for 4th and for 5th position. Picking up on the other group leaders, we've got leading group GTH, the number 25 car of Sam Branston, that's there in 7th position. Leading group GTA, and another car that's had a solid weekend in group GTA is the number 11 Ginetta, and that leads group GTA in the hands of Kyle Wells, down in 14th position at this stage. And it leads it quite comfortably by about 12 seconds from Neil Wallace. So back to 4th place. Paul Fullick still pushing hard at the wheel of the Team Brick BMW. Charlie Digby still trying to stay in his Pirelli wheel tracks, but has never quite been close enough to try and sneak his way through. And in some respects, does he need to? Because he's leading his group. If he overtakes the BMW, it's only for pride, not for any championship points. So may well be just sensible driving by Charlie Digby, just to sit there. If there's a mistake, of course he'll go through. Now, are we going to see a new change for the lead of the race? We've got a new fastest lap because Mark Smith has just set it. 1 minute 29.575, bringing the lead margin back down to 0.2 of a second. Tom Walpole also set his best individual lap of the race last time through, which was a 1 minute 29.8. So there's only 0.3 of a second difference between them in terms of lap time. But they're both pushing each other along, and Mark Smith runs very wide. Coming out of the old hairpin, the car leaps into the air briefly, all four wheels off the ground, as he hit a bump in the grass, and that has lost him a couple of tenths, I would have thought. Hopefully it hasn't caused any damage to the underbody of the McLaren. All looks to be good, and I can see, can't see anything hanging down on the car, so I think he rather got away with that one. There's no obvious signs of damage to the front splitter as well, which is always the worry. I'm just going to show how hard Mark Smith is trying to take the lead of the race away from Tom Walpole. Well, he's been trying for 10 minutes now. Not that far away from the half distance point of this race. And Tom Walpole is looking comfortable in the lead of the race. The gap will surely open up between them. Up towards McLean's, Warren Gilbert under pressure from Harry Ewell. Jack Gadd still trying to recover after his problems, but he still remains off the lead lap, of course, so all he's doing in reality is unlapping himself from cars. He's not gaining position with that overtake over Harry Ewell. And if he does the same with Warren Gilbert, again, it won't be for position because Warren Gilbert is in 8th place and Jack Gadd is down in 17th. So that's just another car picked off for Jack Gadd, but no positions gained. But the car, whatever brought it into the pit lane, the DWG machine, is looking all good now. Warren Gilbert's had such a solid weekend at the wheel of Marcos, and as I say, that commentator's curse strikes, locks the brakes. He's going to lose out to Harry Ewell. I was about to say he'd had a solid weekend apart from that small mistake that pitched him in the gravel yesterday, and as soon as I said it, snatches the brakes. Back to the lead. Mark Smith has caught up again with Tom Walpole. Well, last time he was close, he made that small mistake down at the old hairpin, which cost him a little bit of time. Now he just needs to focus his efforts on seeing if he can prise the door open, and in the background Peter Ursig all over the grass. He was trying to get round Andrew Dorber, and I don't think Andrew Dorber quite saw where he was going, and as a result of that was probably unaware that the Audi was trying around the outside at Coppice, took his usual racing line exit to it, and Peter Ursig had no choice but to take to the grass. They avoid each other, they both continue. So up towards the braking area for Goddard's. Tom Walpole still leading the way. The traffic probably not aiding his cause in the early stages of this lap, which has allowed Mark Smith to close back in again. Through they come. Tom Walpole 1 minute 30.1, Mark Smith 1 minute 29.9. The gap is down to 0.5 of a second again. So it's about where it was before we saw that small mistake from Mark Smith a few laps ago. We're at the halfway point as well now of this race, so 25-minute race, 12.5 pretty much gone, 12.5 to go, and 8 laps now completed by the front runners. Still Paul Fullick and Charlie Digby are together. There's been very little daylight between the pair of them since the race got underway, but the order has always remained the same. They're not quite as close as the likes of Tom Walpole and Mark Smith for the lead of the race. There's also traffic as well that they will need to deal with before too much longer. And for Paul Fullick, he'll be desperate to try and meet it in the right spot so that it doesn't hold him up. For the lead of the race, Tom Walpole's pulled away again, hasn't he? So what's happened to Mark Smith on this particular lap? Because he's had a much slower one, and it was in the middle sector of it, I think. Tom Walpole was 0.3 quicker through the first sector than Mark Smith, but he was a full 1.1 seconds quicker through the middle sector. So that must have been another small mistake maybe down the old hair, because I don't think there was traffic that was to be dealt with on that lap. Now, can Charlie Digby find a way through? Does he want to find a way through? Because as we say, it doesn't affect the championship scoring for the number 4 car. They've had such a consistent season so far. They are leading the championship. Why try and overtake for no championship points if it's tight? New fastest lap of the race, Tom Walpole, 1 minute 28.912, so he's now picked up the fastest lap of the race, and the lead margin has certainly grown now. It's up to 2.1 seconds from first to second place. So the KTM no longer under any sort of pressure from Mark Smith, so Tom Walpole can just focus his efforts out of the windscreen. He'll have looked in his mirrors and seen that the McLaren is too far away. The team would have told him on the radio, just don't worry about what's going on behind at the moment. He's nowhere near you. Just keep pushing on, build the gap, try and at least now control that 2-second margin. Good fight also still going on for 8th and 9th as well. Warren Gilbert doing a grand job of holding off Harry Ewell's Ginetta. 30 years difference between the age of these two particular cars. The Marcos, such a brute to drive. You can see the tail end of the car wagging there as well. The team was saying earlier on, it is a beast of a car to drive. If you try anything with it and the car doesn't like it, it will spit you off instantly. It is a proper mechanical device, the Marcos. It's a pleasure to see it out. It makes a glorious sound as well with the 7-litre V8 that's under the bonnet. In a straight line it's a rocket ship, but you compare sort of the aero devices, front splitter and rear wings, compared to some of the more modern GT cars, and it looks very simple, the aerodynamics on it by comparison. Tom Walpole still leading the way, the lead advantage 2.3 seconds, so it has climbed again by another 0.2 of a second, but Tom Walpole does need to be careful. He has had a couple of warnings now for track limits. If he picks up another one, he could be in danger of getting a 5-second penalty, and if he does that, that would, on corrected times, lose him the lead, because he's only 2.3, 2.4 ahead of Mark Smith. So Tom will just need to make sure he stays within the confines of the circuit. When we talk about track limits, you've got a white line painted around the circuit. That's the circuit limit. If there's a red and white curb beyond that, that becomes the circuit limit, the red and white curb. But if you go onto the green painted tarmac, or run wide onto the grass, that's the track limit. The first one you get for free, the second one you get a warning, the third one you'll get a 5-second penalty. So Tom just needs to maybe just dial things back from 100% or wherever he's driving at, just dial it back by 2 or 3%, just make sure you stay within the white lines or the red and white curves and not beyond. He still continues to lead on this particular lap. Through the first sector he was slightly quicker than Mark Smith, through the second sector he was slightly slower than Mark Smith, so the gap really comes down to what it looks like through the third sector. Traffic being dealt with by Frank Morris there, that was Andrew Dauber's constructive Ubik BMW that was dealt with. So that's the car in 6th place, lapping the car that's in 16th place. The GTC Lamborghini lapping a GTH BMW with only 8 minutes to go, and now 11 laps completed by our race leader, for which the lead advantage is 1.6 seconds. It did come down though, and it came down by 0.8 of a second, and Mark Smith's had an off. He's gone off into the gravel trap down at the old hairpin. Only saw the tail end of it, so did he have a moment, one would imagine, round through the crane of curves and then couldn't quite gather it up in time. But for Mark Smith, that is a very rare mistake from him. He's normally very, very reliable as a driver, so was it a mistake? Was it maybe something wrong with the car? But he's skittered through the gravel, he's made contact with the barriers, he'll be fine because it was quite a light impact in the end, but I'm afraid that's him out of the race with 7.5 minutes to go. So Warren Gilbert still busy squabbling away with Harry Ewell. John Ingram's in on the mix as well, so this is the final 3 places inside the top 10 that we were looking at. There is the car that had been going well in Group GTA and was leading the championship coming into this weekend, but it has now lost the championship lead and it's only second in Group GTA. We've still also got the fight on for 4th and 5th place, with Paul Fullick still clinging on to 4th position. Charlie Digby still shadowing the car, but has never really either made an attempt to overtake or had the opportunity to overtake, whichever the case may be. So through the left-hander and over the start-finish line, Paul Fullick still leading the way, and then Charlie Digby edging up to him. Again, he's going to be too far away when they head in towards the braking area for Redgate Corner. So again, he's just going to have to keep his powder dry, and of course there'll be no overtaking once you come out of Redgate, because you can see that flashing yellow board at the side of the track there, indicating that Mark Smith's car is still in the gravel trap being dealt with down there. So they head past the yellow flag zone, where Mark Smith's car, say, it's gone a long way into the gravel trap. He's out of the car and absolutely fine. You can see him scampering away. So let's have a quick look at exactly what happened to Mark Smith. We know what the outcome was. So he comes down, right, he's trying to get past Matt Eddles by the look of things. He gets alongside Matt Eddles. Oh, 2 wheels on the grass, and that was it. That was all it needed. He then just couldn't get the car stopped. It skittered into the gravel trap. He did everything he could to try and stop it. The car goes sideways into the barriers. You can see the tyre wall doing its job there of absorbing the impact, but that was nothing to do with Matt Eddles. It was just a very small mistake from Mark Smith. Met the traffic in the wrong place, and then as soon as you touch the wheels on the grass, I'm afraid that was it. It's a very fast part of the circuit. Main thing is Mark sort of scrambled away and ran away once the marshals had told him he was able to get out of the car. So 5 minutes to go. Still those localised yellow flags down through the Craner curves. There'll be no overtaking through this part of the circuit. We might remove the yellow flags once all of the marshals are clear, or might continue to leave them there for the rest of the race. It really depends. We've also had that change, haven't we? John Ingram has managed to get through and ahead of Harry Ewell. So the Ginetta had been fighting to get past Warren Gilbert, but has now been picked off by the McLaren Artura. There's a big bit of damage to the windscreen of the McLaren after the race earlier on today. You could just see it in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. There was some debris that was flicked up by a car that was ahead of the McLaren in the pit stop race earlier on. You can see there's a big crack in the windscreen, a big almost hole in the windscreen in the bottom left-hand corner, right in front of the driver. The team would not have had the chance, or maybe even the parts, to replace the windscreen on that car, so they've probably put some clear tape over it just to stop it getting any worse. And they've also now need to bear in mind they've got the race leader bearing down on them. So John Ingram takes the usual racing line in towards the Melbourne hairpin because he wants to try and get past Warren Gilbert. But now they need to be conscious that Tom Walpole is bearing down on them at the wheel of the race leading KTM Crossbow. Onto the brakes up the inside of Warren Gilbert. And John Ingram takes the opportunity to sneak his way through. So Tom Walpole through and ahead of the back markers. Warren Gilbert picked off by John Ingram, but in a straight line. Here comes the Marcus, and it goes back through, but the McLaren in a braking area has better brakes. We've got another off, I'm afraid, and that's McLean's corner, and that is going to be Jack Gadd who is off. So he is into the gravel trap there. So we did have the yellow flags down at the old hairpin. I'm not sure whether they've been withdrawn or not. We are certainly going to have yellow flags up at McLean's corner for Jack Gadd, who, as I say, has had pretty much mixed fortunes this weekend. It's been a tough weekend for him. There's also still this fight for 4th and 5th going on, or 3rd and 4th, I should say, going on. And they've got the traffic to deal with, which will be Matt Eddles, who was in exactly the same spot when Mark Smith opted to go by him, and that was what caused the problem. But of course, with those yellow flags down there, Paul Fullick can't do that. He can't overtake there. And if he wants to overtake on the run out of the old hairpin, he's got to be quick, because there's more yellow flags just when you get up towards McLean's corner now. So he clears the traffic, and Charlie Digby I don't think can, because they're going into the yellow flag zone. In fact, I don't think any of them can, so they're still holding station. Paul Fullick, probably realising still can't get past. Get to the exit. Yes, now I can, because we've passed the green flags. And once he is through, Charlie Digby follows through as well, so they could resume their battle for 3rd and for 4th position as it is now. It was for 4th and 5th, but of course with the off for Mark Smith, no longer. That's Harry Ewell. He's off again, and this time it's Mark Ellman who's able to pick him off. So Harry Ewell is dropping through the order now. I think that now puts him down into 10th position. So Warren Gilbert in what will be 8th place, and that's Doc Bush has had a spin. That's Goddard's. That's a final corner. So Doc can't see him in the back of that shot, but that's definitely Goddard's where he's off. He's been trying to fire the Porsche back up again. Doc, who is one of the most consistent drivers in GT Cup. Very seldom he has a retirement, Doc Bush, and has had a solid weekend. He's fired the car back up. He will continue, but will he be 12th anymore? I'm not sure. And he's also now needing to watch his mirrors as well, because he's got Paul Fullick in 3rd place and Charlie Digby in 4th, right with him. So Fullick tries to go through, And as he doesn't, probably because he thought there were yellow flags there, Charlie Digby had half a run and then thought better of it. So Paul Fullick finally squeezes his way past the Porsche down in towards the braking area for the Melbourne for the old hairpin. And then Charlie Digby will have to wait until the exit of the corner. But of course, if he can't clear it now, we'll be back into the yellow flag zone again, up at McLean's corner, where Jack Gadd's car still remains stranded in the gravel trap at this stage. Right, fight for position. Here we go. This is John Ingram under pressure from Harry Ewell, who's trying to recover. And Harry Ewell has equally as much got Mark Ellman right with him. So all three of them are absolutely together. That is 8th, 9th and 10th positions. Just up the road from this is the 7th place car in the hands of Warren Gilbert. So this is good value, this one. And they've all now got quick cars bearing down on them, which will be, I think that's Peter Ursig in the background, who was flashing his lights in the Audi to try and wiggle his way through. But our race leader is now on to his last lap of the race. Remember, we had a win yesterday in the first race for the Team Brit BMW. We had a win for the Audi in the second race yesterday. We had a win for the McLaren. And now it looks like we're going to have a win for the KTM Crossbow, which means not only is that 4 different winners out of 4 different races, that is 4 different manufacturers that have taken the wins as well this weekend. So Peter Ursig carving his way through the traffic. Going to be a busy final lap for him as he heads down through the old hairpin. He's dealt with Mark Ellman. The next car to deal with will be Harry Ewell, but he'll have to wait probably until the exit of McLean's corner to be able to do that. And the main job is done as far as Peter Ursig and Marcus Clutton are concerned, and that is outscore their main championship rivals in the GT3 class, that being the BMW of Paul Fullick, because the Audi is second, the BMW is third. So Peter Ursig now can get past Harry Ewell, but for our race leader, he is already safely out of the Melbourne hairpin, heading up towards the braking area for Druids. The KTM Crossbow, which joins the championship for this weekend in the hands of Tom Walpole, is going to pick up the win in round 10 of the 2026 GT Cup Championship. 4 different winners out of 4 races, 4 different manufacturers win out of 4 races. Congratulations to Tom Walpole, who's had a solid weekend in reality. We'll wait for the arrival of the car in second place, Peter Ursig, to take the checkered flag. He's just coming up towards Goddard's now with this batch of cars behind him. So here comes Peter Ursig. He will finish in second place. Third place will go the way of Paul Fullick, who is just heading up towards Goddard's now at the wheel of the BMW. I don't think there's any further traffic he will need to deal with before he takes the checkered flag, and he's been shadowed up the whole race by the car that finishes 4th, the championship leading car, which again wins its group. So that means that the number 4 Lamborghini, which came to Donington Park lying second in the championship, will leave Donington Park as the championship leading car, subject of course to official confirmation. But for Tom Walpole, what a weekend for him. It's great to see him back in GT Cup. It's fantastic to see this very unusual KTM Crossbow GT2. So it's the only one we've got in this country, and on his debut weekend with that car in GT Cup, as they are still trying to learn and understand the car. They have slowly found a bit more speed, both in themselves and in the car all weekend, and that's a great way to repay the team for all of their hard work this weekend to bring home the spoils in the final race of the weekend. So well done to Tom, and it'll be interesting to see as to what he can do when they really get their teeth into that car ever more. And we head to Silverstone next, where much longer straights, the car can really open its taps, and again that car could be hunting down overall wins again at Silverstone when we head there in the early part of August. So he will head in towards the pit lane, as will Peter Ursig, who finished in second position. And then we can just wait for the cars to head into the pit lane before we can confirm some results for you for our final race of the weekend. Tom Walpole claims the win, making it 4 different winners out of 4 races. Peter Ursig was second and Paul Fullick was third. Charlie Digby finished in 4th place, and 5th went the way of Frank Morris. In 6th position, it was a win in Group GTH for Sam Branston. Warren Gilbert was 7th, but had a busy old race at the wheel of the markers. John Ingram was in 8th place, Harry Ewell was 9th, and Mark Ellman completed the top 10. Then as we head outside of the top 10. In 11th position, it is going to be car number 11, conveniently enough, which is Kyle Wells. Doc Bush, despite the spin, finished in 12th place. Matt Eddles was 13th, ahead of Neil Wallace there in 14th place, and Andrew Dorber was 15th as the last of the finishers. Retirement for Jack Gadd at McLean's, retirement for Mark Smith at the Old Hairpin, and the fastest lap of the race did go to the race winner, Tom Walpole, 1 minute 28.912. And that is it. That is all of our racing action from here at Donington Park, and our second visit already this year here for the GT Cup Championship. But next up for us, it will be Silverstone and the Grand Prix circuit on the 1st and the 2nd of August. So from everybody here, from whether it be Onside Productions, Butte Motorsport, GT Cup, myself, Mark Werrell, thanks for joining us. We'll catch you next time. Goodbye.